Hey there, it's your friend Phil, project management trainer and coach. Quick reminder to lots of you who are studying for the PMP exam to take a look at page 686 to 693. That is low-hanging fruit that shows you how these sub-tools and techniques map back to specific sections where there are processes being described in the PMBOK guide. The tools and techniques form a very difficult body of work to master. As you might have realized, the inputs and outputs for many are very easy to grasp because most of the time they are documents, they're plans, they're things that you can easily look at and remember. But when it comes to the tools and techniques, a lot of times it takes more than just looking at a document or looking at a plan. You're going to have to crack open a few books and learn a few formulas or learn a few concepts, get those concepts to stick. And what makes the tools and techniques so challenging is because a lot of times people have never encountered anything being discussed or described. Take, for example, context diagrams. How many times have you used a context diagram on a project? Another example will be PDM. People barely even schedule talk, let's use PDM. For that reason, these tools and techniques that you hear about, they're a little bit challenging. It's hard to crack into them. Now, I took this for granted until one of our staff members said, I just got done with the CAPM exam. The tools and techniques were horrendous. And at that point, I began to look into tools and techniques to see if I had really mastered them. And I realized that it took a lot of effort, a lot more effort to actually break down tools and techniques and discuss and describe them in detail. So I want to call your attention to these tools and techniques so that you'll be prepared for what you face on the exam. Questions written from a tool and technique perspective are very pinpoint precise when it comes to the language. Without the language, you could fall absolutely flat. And I'm not talking about blanket tools and techniques like expert judgment and meetings. I'm talking about those tools and techniques that require a lot more thought and a lot more deliberateness to master and to distinguish one from another. Let me give you an example. Knowledge management versus information management. What's the difference between those two? If you haven't paid close attention to that, you could struggle with it. When it gets down to the nitty-gritty of earned value management, which is buried under earned value analysis, which is buried under data analysis, you realize that there are different facets, nooks and crannies of the 4 EAC types. Now, how do you master the 4 EAC types when you've never even used SPI, let alone the more advanced forecasting? The way to do it is to slow down and absorb the content. Now, if you haven't heard of tools and techniques turbo, you need to go Google tools and techniques turbo. Tools and techniques turbo. That's right. And you need to get on that program to help accelerate your understanding, your awareness of the tools and techniques. There are so many of them. And before you hit the PMP exam, I really want you to look into tools and techniques turbo. Now, if you pick up the book, do you mind if I do that? Let me do that. The book, and you go to page 696 to 693, you realize that they never stop. There are so many tools and techniques buried under the blanket, so-called grouped tools and techniques. And I'm talking about data analysis, data representation, so on and so forth. But my friends, the tools and techniques in this book really need to be mastered. And one of the best ways to master them, especially if you're finding it hard, going through 200 very boring looking tools and techniques, well, perhaps they're not up to 200, but it sure feels like a million. The best way to do it is to go to Tools and Techniques Turbo. Go through all of them in 4 hours and hone in on those that you don't understand or you don't know, and I'm sure you'll be a lot better off when you get into the exam. Do what you need to do. In the Tools and Techniques Turbo, you'll find the Tools and Techniques catalog. Use the Tools and Techniques catalog. To make it simple for you, I might as well put a link somewhere down below so you can hit the link, check out Tools and Techniques Turbo. Get wired for success. Enough said, I'll speak to you soon.